Let us do a flow diagram exercise combining resource, stakeholder, communications and integration management knowledge area. In this case, I have a set of boxes or block available. In each box or block, there is a question for you. Your job is to replace the question with the name of a process which will fit into the 4 knowledge areas. Are you ready? In such a case, bring out your pen and paper or pencil, draw this diagram and try to solve it on your own. Once you have tried, you can come back to see the solution. You can pause here. Alright, I believe you have tried. Let us see the answer. How to plan for resources. Plan resource management. How many resources? Estimate activity resources. Get the resources. Acquire resources. Improve competency of your team members. Develop team process. Track team member performance. Manage team process. Check physical resources. That will be in control resources process. How to communicate? Plan communications management. Distribute information. Manage communications. Ensure optimal flow of information. Monitor communications. Who are the stakeholders? Identify stakeholder process. How to engage with the stakeholders? Plan stakeholder engagement. Foster engagement with stakeholders. Manage stakeholder engagement. Maintain effectiveness of engagement. Monitor stakeholder engagement. And here, address the change request. This will be done by perform integrated change control, or as I call it, the PICC or the PIC process. So this is our answer. We have planned resource management, output of which is feeding into estimate activity resources, which in turn is going into acquire resources process. Output of acquire resources going into develop team, output of which is feeding into manage team process. Output of acquire resources is also going into control resources process. Now we have planned communications management, output of which is feeding into manage communications, which in turn is acting as an input into monitor communications. Then you have identified stakeholders, output of which is going into plan stakeholder engagement, and output of plan stakeholder engagement is manage stakeholder engagement, and this output from plan stakeholder engagement is also acting as an input to the process of monitor stakeholder engagement. Then you have various purple colored arrow marks which are going into perform integrated change control. Now here is our second exercise. We have the name of the processes now available. There is a number of arrow marks denoting the inputs and outputs for every process. Now your job is to tell me one key output or one key input which is represented by these arrow marks. There is a number of inputs, a number of outputs. I am not really interested in all the inputs and all the outputs of all the processes. You have to tell me exactly one key output or key input which are highlighted in various color coding. In some of the color coding, I have a single one, such as there is a green color coding. It means it is a single output which is flowing across. Or similarly, purple color coding, which is a single color coding and it is fitting into perform integrated change control process. So you have to tell me which is the key output which is flowing across all these processes. It can be multiple key outputs. Again, are you ready? In such a case, bring out your pen and paper or pencil and try to do it on your own. After you have tried, you can come back here to see the solution. You can pause here. Alright, I believe you have tried. Let us see the answer. Plan resource management. Output is resource management plan, which will be coming here. This is feeding into estimate activity resources. It is also feeding into all the subsequent processes of resource management knowledge area. Then output of estimate activity resources is resource requirements. This is going into acquire resources process. Output of which is project team assignments and physical resource assignment. Whereas project team assignment will act as an input to develop team process, the physical resource assignment will act as an input to control resources process. Now output of develop team is team performance assessment, which will act as an input to manage team process where the actual performance appraisal of the team members will happen. Next, this resource management plan is also acting as an input to plan communications management, manage communications and monitor communications. Then we have Plan communication management output going into managed communications, output of which will be project communication. This project communication will act as an input to monitor communications process. Next is identify stakeholders, which is stakeholder register. It is acting as an input to plan stakeholder engagement. And the stakeholder register is also acting as an input to plan resource management as well as acquire resources process. And it is also acting as an input to plan communications management. Now once the stakeholder engagement plan is created, it will act as an input to manage stakeholder engagement, and which in turn will act as an input also to monitor stakeholder engagement. Then what are these? This purple colored one, these are with respect to the CRs or the change request. All this change request will act as an input to perform integrated change control, where the change board will be sitting or the CCB will be sitting, and they will be deciding on the change request. So here is our answer for our second exercise. As you can see, the green color coding is with respect to the resource management plan. The orange color coding is with respect to the communications management plan. The pink color coding is with respect to stakeholder engagement plan. The black color coding is with respect to stakeholder register. So the resource management plan is creating the resource. It is created in plan resource management process, and it is feeding into estimate activity resources and all the processes of resource management knowledge area. Then the resource management plan is also acting as an input to plan communications management as well as plan stakeholder engagement process. And it is also acting as an input to monitor stakeholder engagement and manage communications as well as monitor communications process. Next is output of estimate activity resources is resource requirement going into acquire resources process, giving you the project team assignments. And this project team assignment fitting into develop team, and it is giving you team performance assessment. The output of acquire resources is also physical resource assignments, which is acting as an input to control resources, which is very specific to physical resources. So these two processes of develop team and manage team is with respect to the project team members, whereas the control resources process is with respect to the physical resources. And the team performance assessment in turn will be feeding into manage team process, where the performance appraisal of the team members will happen. Now the resource management plan, as we already know, will be feeding into plan communications management, and the stakeholder register is also feeding into plan communications management, and they are creating the communications management plan. This communication management plan is feeding into managed communications, and it has also input of resource management plan, and they are giving an output of project communications. And this project communications is feeding into monitor communications process. Then you have identify stakeholders, which is giving you the stakeholder register. The stakeholder register is going into plan stakeholder engagement, and while creating the stakeholder engagement plan, the communications management plan, which is highlighted in orange color coding, along with the resource management plan, which is highlighted in green color coding, are acting as an input, and the output is the stakeholder engagement plan. The stakeholder engagement plan, of course, will act as an input to manage stakeholder engagement, which is the executing part, and monitoring of the stakeholder engagement will happen in monitor stakeholder engagement, where also the resource management plan is acting as an input. Then you have change request. All these change requests that you are seeing are acting as an input to perform integrated change control process, where the change request will be approved, rejected, delayed, or deferred by the change control board. Now we have these 6 processes. They belong to the resource management knowledge area. We have these 3 processes. These 3 processes belong to communications management knowledge area. Then you have these 4 processes which are part of stakeholder management knowledge area. Now these 2 knowledge areas, I call them as the twins. This knowledge area I call as the close sibling. Can you see how closely the twins as well as the close sibling of resource management knowledge area are interacting with each other? We have already seen in the twins that are very close. I have removed some inputs and outputs, such as you will have stakeholder register acting as an input to all these processes, or change request coming. We have already seen how closely the twins interact with each other. In addition, the resource management knowledge area is the close sibling, which is also very close to the twins, and that is why I call the resource management knowledge area as the sibling or the closest sibling of these twins.